Hey everyone, this is Jesse with Drev, here to show you another one of my Reaktor plugins called the Phase Phucker. Now this effect is based on Apple Logic Pro's phase distortion. If you open up their manual, if you own Apple Logic Pro, they give you a slight readout of how they created the effect. And they don't lay out all the information, but they give you enough to sort of run with it and create your own. And that's what I wanted to do. I like the effect, so I wanted to bring it into Ableton or any other DAW that I felt like using. So the way the effect works is we use a delay in an interesting and creative way to give us some pretty cool distortion. I've drawn out a rough schematic of how it works. So input signal, the top one, goes to an amplifier. This is just your dry signal. So the input is sent to a delay, but the delay time is controlled by a filtered version of the input signal. Now this is a low pass filter, so that way you get rid of a lot of high frequency content that might cause the delay to go a little bit more crazy than it has to. And you also, right here, I didn't add it in there, but what is there is you have to make it a unipolar signal. Sound is bipolar, it goes +1 to -1, at least in Reaktor. So we have to add just 1 right here. So to scale it from -1 to +1, now we add 1 to it, it goes 0 to 2. So you have the input signal, a filtered version of it, controlling the delay time at an audio rate, and it actually gives you some pretty interesting distortion sounds. And this is just an amplifier to control the amount. That's a wet signal. And then they're just summed and sent to the output. So the layout of this effect, I again use the A and the B view. A is an extremely simplified view that's based a lot on the Apple Logic Pro version, where they don't give you much options and that sort of thing. Whereas B, I take up a lot more space, give a lot more flexibility to do a lot more destruction. Now the different sections of the plugin go as like this. This is the input section where you send the signal. These are your filters. This is the interesting display of the delay. This is the output section, and a few other extra features added, like the filter feed, the pitch follower, and the oscillator, and we'll get to those. Okay, so the input section is fairly straightforward. You got left and right level meters to see that you are getting signal. Mono to stereo buttons, so the left side can be duplicated to the right if that's what you want to do. I've added a filter selection here. Right now, if it's off, it just passes the audio as it is with a level knob right here. If you start messing with the filters, this is gonna change what is the dry signal. So throughout the plugin, this is now the dry signal. It's filtered with the Pro 52 filter right now, but I'm just going to turn it off and we'll have a level. Okay, so this is the output section. Right here, this is the dry signal and this is the wet signal. Now since you're going to be affecting the left and the right a little bit different, and you might be using mono, like maybe just a bass guitar or something, I added panning ability for the left and the right in case you want to make them dead center. So right now we're going to increase the wet signal to start showcasing the effect. Get rid of the dry signal. So the way I've laid out the filter section is I've tried my best to make it as simple as possible. Filter 1 for the left side filter, filter 2 for the right side filter. You've got a link button right here. I've got it enabled, so I only have to affect this filter on the left side and it duplicates it to the right side. I've given you a lot of options here to do some damage with. You can choose a different filter, like high pass, band pass, and 2x. What that means is it just doubles up on the filter. So right now there are 2 band pass, 2-pole filters. Saturate, you enable that and then you tell it how much to overdrive the signal. Got a level meter right here to make sure, or so you can visually see that you're filtering something and getting some output. Because if you have it set to, like if we use a low pass filter and we filter it too low of a signal so that we're not actually getting anything out of it, you can hear it's almost like listening to the dry signal. It's not changing the delay time. So this is important that we actually see something right here, because that's what it's using to delay it. As a way too of monitoring it, the monitor button lets you listen directly to the signal. Let's see, there's nice frequency right there. Oversaturated. Okay. The delay section, I've given you a lot of ability to just really destroy and distort the signal, and bunch of interesting ways. Just as a way of showing, this is called a delay view, 0 milliseconds to 40 milliseconds. Now it looks like a sine wave turns sideways, and it pretty much is. So what used to be 0 is now 20 milliseconds, and goes up to 40 milliseconds and then down to 0 milliseconds. I've given you the option to use several different delays. Right now we're using a diffuser delay, and that enables this to kind of change it, how much diffusion is happening. High interpolation, or no interpolation at all. And I've got a few more right down here. Rectify turns the signal into just a unipolar signal. Invert, it'll just invert that. Mod amount and time taken directly from the Logic plugin, where they just are multipliers. So mod amount, 100%, 50%, 0%. So now the delay is not delaying at all. Time, it almost does the same thing as the mod amount, except how much time. So half the time, it'll maximum be 20 milliseconds if I take off the rectify. Offset, this just offsets or adds time into it. So we've added about, I don't know, how many milliseconds right there? I'd say roughly 10. Amble is it's just a wave shaper that I added in there, almost as a way to randomly add some distortion into it. And you see the way it distorts what would be a sine wave and make it crazy. So once I started making this and really liking the tones that I was getting, I started thinking about having maybe the filter frequency follow the pitch of the signal that I sent it. So I made a little pitch follower over here. Right now the amount is 0, meaning it's not sending any control values to the frequency of the filters. But if you start increasing it, the higher your incoming signal pitch is, the higher it pushes the filter, or you can invert it. So the higher it goes, the lower it'll push the filter. Another little option I added was the filter feed. Now by default, the input signal, the audio from the audio track, is feeding the filters. But you can change it right here to be the oscillator. The oscillator is located over here underneath the input. That made sense to me because if you're changing the filter feed, we're going from the input over to the oscillator right here. And the way it works is I've got a level right here for how much is being sent to the filters. You can change the waveform of the oscillator, pulse wave, parabol. And I tried to make it a little bit creative with a XY pad right here. So left to right is frequency. Up, down depends, like right now it'll be the width of the parabolic wave. Same thing with pulse, be the pulse width. Now remember, this is feeding the filters, so they're going crazy right now because they can filter that signal out. If it's too high, they have nothing to filter. Now if you want to listen to the oscillator, you hit monitor right here. And now you're listening to the oscillator being filtered. And similar to the delay stable, I've added a handful of snapshots for you to use with this. The ones that have logic before it are my closest interpretation or ability to recreate the logic sounding effects. So. And then I also added a bunch of my own just to give you an idea of what this thing can do. And again, you'll have to suffer through my naming, like, let's see here. Finger licker. Decode me. Or Alien Kills Cowboy. Well, guys, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this demonstration, and, yeah, hope you enjoy this little effect. Cheers.